Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. I tell you, my first opening, it always gives me the giggles, 100%. In that 1 or 2 seconds before I hit that live button, my brain is 100 miles an hour, questioning absolutely everything that's right and what I'm going to bring to the table. And in that split second of hitting that live button, I just release. And when I release, quite often, I don't know if there's other people out there, but I laugh a lot when I am nervous. I try to find that connection with myself, and I try to find that connection to the silliness of that laughing. Once in a while, especially when I was a little kid. Hello, Andrew. Hello. When I was a little kid, sometimes me and my sisters would get into these absolute laughing fits, and then we think we got it all under control, right? And then we just look at each other, or somebody would give somebody the side eye, and we would be at it again. And after a while, it would become uncomfortable, right? Because, well, there's muscles and stuff going on, and you are right. You have a life. You have other things you'd much rather be doing, but because you've gotten yourself into that moment, right? Sometimes it becomes difficult and uncomfortable to come out of it. My mom and dad were big on tickling. They'd get us on the floor, and oh my goodness, and they would tickle, tickle, tickle. And I swear to God, it was torture. It was like putting on one of those stretcher things, and you see in the medieval times, right? You could imagine, hopefully just imagine and not experience that, but that pain and uncomfortableness, putting it in a minor frame of mind, right? Uncomfortable is just right. Well, this week we got this word patience, and I am drawing it back to the main trunk of the tree, because I do wander off into the side branches often, and I allow that to happen. Sometimes it's in the excitedness of the moment, sometimes it's in me releasing that stress, right? Of that hit that live button, or oh my goodness, Cindy, are you going to have enough time? Or one of those many hundred questions or worries or stresses that you can have in your mind. And just trust, you just do it, and it just all works out fine. We got this word patience, and this is a good way to say that patience. We've been talking about it all week. We might as well finish it at the end of the week. And knowing that we barely touched on it, except in this one aspect, that is probably going to roll across our paths again to look at it in a different perspective. But in that perspective of having patience with myself, got a lesson this morning. We get our lessons in all different ways, sometimes in our experiences, sometimes in our conversations, in our relationships, in knowing and seeing somebody and knowing how they're going to react, in that hypervigilance, right, of our own safety. There are all different ways of taking in lessons, and for me, I find it in my own self is right, just to reflect on myself, right? Do those deep dives into those things that see and think and realize that are a little bit different than how the majority runs with it, right? Understanding we are all unique, right? We all have different aspects of ourselves, and I have to be patient, right? Because for something that I just find is an opening in on a conversation. Like if somebody's interested in golf and I know how to say nine, right? I think nine's a golf a golf number, right? Or par. I just thinking I know what a stick in the ground with a hole in the is. Okay, let's just minimize it. But I have that minimal amount of knowledge in that hobby that it could get me into a conversation with somebody where that is the hobby and they are an expert in a field that I am very weak in my own, right? This is how we move. This is how we pick up friends along the way, pick up relationships along the way, is right? Finding those commonalities. And, I'm out there and I'm finding those commonalities, but I'm finding those commonalities in very unique, smart, intelligent, beautiful, soft, right? Determined, brave, courageous, and every single one of them different than the other. And yet I find those commonalities, and it's for me to decide whether those commonalities is going to be that expertise, right, that I have, or just in that little bit of information, right, that little bit of experience that you picked up along the way that makes it possible that you can sit in a conversation, or right, not just sit in but actually participate in a conversation, not realizing where it could lead off. My patience is just getting through those lessons, right? But getting through those lessons in a way that I'm actually absorbing them. And lots of people, they're getting those lessons and they're not absorbing them. They don't even realize that they're lessons. They're just carrying on their day to day. And, right, these lessons are flying at us right and left. And I got a lesson today by somebody that I respect. And we got 10 minutes. So I want to make sure I get this in because this isn't my lesson. This was an offering of somebody else that I follow in their content. Somebody who's very much a unique, but very much a courageous, determined, right? Smart lady that is, right, offering up these small lessons so that we don't get so far ahead of us, that we don't miss those lessons because we're flying so fast, right? Narcissism, these topics have been, right, some of the very first bits of content that have come across my path, and a lot of content come across, but it was strong and it was meant to impact me, right? So a lesson comes across my path and it made me reflect in my own ideas and what I'm putting out there to the world, right? Because I remembered a couple of days ago that I mentioned that I was the daughter of an empath and a daughter of a narcissist. And that is not entirely true. Narcissistic tendencies, right? But because we are a dynamic family, right? I don't want to label. That's the last thing I want to do is label somebody, because I wouldn't want somebody to label me because I'm dynamic in my own way of movement and in my own upbringing and in those traits that I have that are a mix of somebody, right? I'm not saying somebody, I'm saying people, souls, right? Other beings out there that are also a mixture. And I have to recognize in that labeling that, I labeled my mother a narcissist, right? And though she had narcissistic tendencies, right? Though she had lots of different characteristics, but me drawing at strings to label something to say that's what that person is, it's not true, right? Because my mother for sure had very much borderline tendencies. She went through her own experiences, very traumatic experiences in her own life. And, to label somebody, right, because of that experience that I had with her. My sisters had a totally different experience with her, right? And so I got this lesson this morning by this woman, just to say be very careful about how we label people. I have not even, right, talked to anybody who is a true expert in this, I am not a true expert in this. I am bumbling along the way just like everybody else, and I am picking up information and lessons along the way just like everybody else. But I am not perfect in that. And I have to be patient and understand that those right redirections, because that's what I got today, was a redirection. And what's the name of her channel? Um, Goddess Energy, right? And she was on point. And I don't make comments on people's content very often unless it truly impacts me. But I recognize that redirection because I recognize that I labeled, and labeling is not fair. It's unkind, and for the most part I'm going to say, right, untrue, right? So a little course correction and a little bit of getting it to my attention so that maybe I don't do that, right? Again. And if not again, maybe not as often. And maybe if it's not as often, it maybe I can recognize it as quickly as I did when I got that lesson today and course correct myself in that moment, even before I open up my mouth and paint something as true when that may or may not be, right? So patience with myself because I spit that out as a fact, and it right it's for sure not a whole fact at the very least. And in my understandings, right, and in the lessons and conversations and in these great ah teachers out there, because they are teachers, right? Because I am making my movement through that big appetizer platter that I have been so grateful to have stumbled onto in this digital age. Okay, you guys. I have got to run off. I just wanted to end this week with a little bit of course correction in that willingness to be course corrected in my misunderstandings, because it's not in my intent that I should get it wrong, but we always get it wrong before we get it right. And let me see what Andrew has got to say there. That's a good point, Cindy. Along with being patient with others, we need to be patient with ourselves. Oh my goodness, right? Patient and understanding is two words that really do belong as if not bedmates, then as soulmates, right? Because we are too hard on ourselves in what we don't get right and what we don't have in the moment, right? That's another good point. Learning valuable lessons simply from going through daily life and doing what needs to be done. Oh, no kidding. Wait till Sunday. Oh my goodness, Andrew. I'm making some plans. We're making some movement, and I'm pretty excited about sharing it, right? But in the meantime, I really do have to run off to work. This is where I totally shut off if I take a few lessons along the way in this weekend amazing. If not, it's just a matter of giving every ounce of energy into this job that puts the roof over my head out of appreciation for this job that puts the roof over my head. Okay, you guys. See you Sunday. Bye bye.